I didn't think at all about kidney disease until I went to church one day. It was a church I had just been recently visiting and checking out, and the pastor was giving an announcement that he was going to be stepping down out of leadership because his 18-year-old daughter was in need of a kidney, and it was getting very drastic as far as her needs and her dialysis needs. And he wasn't soliciting, but he was just saying the reasons to pray for her and the reasons why he needed to step down out of a leadership position because their life had been put on hold because of her kidney disease. And it was the first time I realized that you can be a living donor, let alone a non-related living donor. And I was immediately feeling like I needed to do something, that I needed to act. And I actually, right after the service, told him that I would be tested, and he was somewhat taken aback and dumbfounded. And so I thought maybe I should pray about that and soul search that more. And the more I found out, the more devastated I was that there was such an incredible need, yet a fairly low risk way to help. I think the biggest thing that my family worried about was the fact that I was donating to a stranger, and the concern that one of them or somebody that we know might need one someday. And I tried to help them understand that it was a soul conviction for me, something that I felt I needed to do. And my kids were young. They were 6 and 10 and 13. And I felt that they needed to understand that you don't reserve kindness or giving for potential circumstances that would make you self-centered in what you have to give. And that I think giving would only lead to more giving, and the possibility that I myself or them need a kidney. The goodness that we gave as a family through this process would only be reciprocated through that same sort of kindness somewhere else. The surgery itself was but nerve-wracking the night before and the morning of the surgery itself. I was more scared that it wasn't going to work, that it wasn't going to help this recipient, that it was going to be all for naught, and that something would go wrong complication-wise, and that the purpose for me trying to better somebody's life at least a little through this gift would not have gone well. As I was being rolled into the operating room, I thought finally at first, because it had been a 10-month process since the Good Samaritan donor program at the hospital I donated at did not have a process in place, as I was the first one to go through that program as an altruistic stranger-to-stranger donor. And so I was just relieved that it was finally happening. Hope. I felt just a sense of peace and hope for my recipient, and glad and humbled that I can be part of potential return to health. The best moment after my surgery was when I saw my 3 children and the look of joy and pride on their face that they could be a part of something outside of ourselves, outside of our immediate family, something bigger and better. I thought it was a life lesson that I couldn't have taught them in any more profound way. And I was just proud. As much as I was humble, I was proud to see that recognition in them, that it was okay to be giving outside of our immediate radius in that way. I had a modified open nephrectomy, which is about a 5-inch scar. It wasn't the arthroscopic procedure like many people have today. So I spent 5.5 days, I think, in the hospital. And it was doably painful. Of course, I had the morphine and everything else they give you for pain management. But I was walking around and doing everything I needed to do. In fact, I was at Disneyland 2 weeks later by wheelchair just for safety reasons. And feeling fine, just for precautionary reasons. I kind of got wheeled about in a wheelchair so I didn't get hit or knocked around too much. I didn't ride on a whole lot of rides, but I fell back to my normal self by 4 weeks for sure. The second week, when I first got back from the hospital, there was a lot of nausea, and I was just feeling nauseous. But they gave me some pain medicine, and that kicked the nausea out of the way, and then I was feeling better in no time. What I learned about myself and others is that everybody has the capacity to give. Everybody has the capacity to be compassionate. It doesn't matter that they're strangers. It doesn't matter that they're neighbors or loved ones. That if you dig deep, giving is actually one of the most rewarding and humbling things you can ever do. After donating a kidney, my health or life was pretty much back to normal for 13 years. Last year was my 13th anniversary of my kidney donation, and it was my first complication. It turned out to be somewhat of a big one. It turned out that I had an incisional hernia at the site of the incision that apparently had started 13 years ago. So it was somewhat of an intensive repair in the sense that it made my 4-inch scar a 9-inch scar. But they fixed it. They repaired it. There was some scar tissue embedded in the ribs, but everything's okay. I recovered from that surgery. I'm back to how it was before with no limitations. So everything is fine, and it was still worth it. Something I didn't expect was I stayed pretty anonymous for 10 years. I kind of hid behind that veil of anonymity. So I didn't really get to see the need for organs side of the donation experience until I went to the Transplant Games of America and on the year of my 10th anniversary and came in contact with donor families and recipients for the first time by the thousands. And listening to them and hearing them was the most emotional experience I've ever had in my entire life. It was still humbling. It made me feel very awkward for the heroism that they seem to want to place on me, which I do not like. And the one regret after meeting all those recipients is that I did not give my stranger recipient the chance to find out whom I was, because it was me who wanted to remain anonymous. In my head, I thought, I don't want her to care about thanking me. I want it to be about the return to health and nothing else. But I regret that now. Looking back, the best part about donating was to be part of a truly humbling experience in which you have to step outside yourself and literally give of yourself to someone else, and realizing the humility in that, and the peace in that, and the joy in that. It's just something special, and something that you know that you self-sacrificed in a way that helps. The best advice I could give someone else who's thinking about being a living donor is talk to the people who love you, who care for you. Research, let them know what you know. Talk to people who have gone through the experience, because it truly is in some ways one of the most unique experiences. And talking to people who have gone through it, know the humility in it, know the pitfalls emotionally, mentally, and physically that you might encounter. Don't go into it blind. Don't go into it alone. Know your support system, find your support system, and just go into it with open heart, open mind, and without the rigidity that it's going to go a certain way.